Hello guys, welcome to another video of SDET automation. In this video, we'll be learning about basics of API testing. This is a video which is not related to the Selenium WebDriver tutorial which is currently running. This is just basically for learning about the API and web services. So in this video, we'll be learning about the basics of API testing. And if you don't know about the APIs, you can just check out in recres.in, that is reqres.in. You can like interact with front end real APIs, and you can get a knowledge about it. What's the request, what's the response. We'll be getting to know about this request and response in the future in this tutorial itself. So stay connected to the end of the video. We'll be learning and we'll be deep diving into a lot of things. We'll be learning a lot of things. So before diving into API testing, we should know about what is basically an API. And before knowing about the API and web services, whatever the thing is, we should know about the client and server. So basically, what is client and server? So this is a handwritten note by me, and it will be you can found it in my LinkedIn profile where I will be uploaded this, and it will be uploaded in the description. You can find it there also. So in this video, we'll be learning about the APIs and web service. And first of all, the thing comes in mind where the API actually works is the client and server. So we'll be learning about the today's world and as well as in the history what are actually gone through what we have we had in the history and as well as in the modern time. So first of all, what is client? If you like got to know about what is client and server. So client is a physical computer or a computer hardware that actually accesses a software or service that is made available by the server. So, take an example about it. So, if we just use Google, so Google is a server basically that are providing service, a lot of services. If I just search Sundar Pichai over here, so there are a lot of server, there are a lot of links, URL will be coming up in the front up front. So these are all are provided by the server, and there are a lot of other this is my physical computer, this is my laptop. So this is I'm a client, and I'm actually accessing the server, I'm actually consuming the server. So basically what I'm doing is, see, the client is someone who actually access or consume the data or the services that are provided over the server. So client can be in a physical computer, in a that is like this is my physical computer, physical laptop or whatever. So this is a client, and client need a software, like I need a software like Chrome to access this server. So basically it is self-explanatory in this case. A client is a computer hardware device or a software that access a service made available by a server. The server is often located on a separate physical computer. It need not to be in the separate physical computer. We'll be knowing about that why it is written so. And a server is a physical computer dedicated to run service. So physically, like Google is a server who is actually running on the cloud. But what we don't know is that Google is also have a service like server center, where the data centers where the server is actually hosted, from where the server is actually hosted, and where the cloud is actually hosted. So basically it needs to be a physical or a computer hardware to run the servers and all. So server is a physical computer dedicated to run services to serve the needs of the computers, that are the computers of us, the consumers, depending on the service that is running. It could be file server, database server, home media server, point server, or print server, or a web server. So basically we are working on a web server. We'll be knowing about the web server. And if you want to know about the file server and the database server, so basically file server could be your file system, like this is my file system. And like there are a lot of server like database server, there are db2, Oracle, dbms server, there are IBM have db2 server that has a database organization. And there are a lot of server like home media server. If you just bought a 4.1 speaker, you will be connected to a home media server. So basically a server is something different. It has a separate physical capabilities, and a client has a different separate physical capabilities. It works just like a transmitter and a responder. So what we do basically is, when I search Sundar Pichai over the internet, I just got the result, and this is known as response page. So I requested Sundar Pichai, and I just wrote Sundar Pichai, and I got this thing. If I just copy it and paste in my notepad, okay, send it. If I just copy and paste it in notepad, it will be like this. So I just search 6 to 8 words, and it showed me around this URL. So how it came, what it actually gone through, we'll be learning about this. So first of all, what we had done, like what we have done is that we are a client. This is me. We are requesting something from the server and we are getting the response, and this is the response. So this is the response page. We'll be working on the response page, and if this response don't come, we'll be finding about the bug. And if we do that, then it will be a web service or a API test. And basically, there are a lot of things underneath this thing, but yeah. So basic thing is that request and response. So what we like is, here is an example. If you search for Glassdoor, we are requesting that it's from the client interface. That is, this is my client interface. My Chrome is my client interface, and we are requesting the data, and on the other hand the server is giving response and process the data into client interface. So basically what we are doing is that we are asking Sundar Pichai or whatever the query might be, it providing a response over the pages of, this is the response page, and it is providing to the client interface, and this is the work of an API, and this is there are a lot of chains of APIs what are working behind that. Now we'll be diving into the history. Basically, we should know about the history, what where from where we have came from. So in this client server architecture, we had started our journey in one tier architecture. There is a single tier architecture, could be called a single tier architecture. So first of all, we are started our journey from the one tier architecture. In this type of architecture, as you can see that in this type of architecture, server and client both reside in the same computer. So the most fine example, most important example, not important, most genuine example could be your desktop application like Excel, Word, MS Office, or anything. These are the most clear cut example. If I just using the notepad, this has an API that if I write something like Sundar Pichai over here, okay, so it's just, if I just save it, it will call another API and it will store it in somewhere in the desktop or anything like in a desktop. If I want to store it, so then it will be stored, right? So this is what we are actually doing. uh Sorry. Yeah. So the most important, like the most clear-cut picture for a one-tier architecture is that your desktop application, where the server, like if I am, what I actually did, like in this thing, this is my client. This is my client interface. My laptop is my client interface. I'm opening an API. What we'll do for me is that it will, if I just write it something here in the notepad, it will store it from me in the database, right? In the database, and the database is in same laptop what I'm working for. So this is the only one or clear cut example for one tier architecture. So moving on to the next thing, two tier architecture. Two tier architecture is basically in this type of architecture, as you can see, like this is a self explanatory architecture. In this type of architecture, server and client are in different physical form, that is a different computer. So we have a lot of computers. We actually did see something like this. If you just game freak, you can visit the cyber cafes of your nearby computer center and can have the, like there are a lot of topologies of networking, like this computer has the internet, and from there the internet is surrounding to different places. Like that only, if a computer has the database or has the has the database layer, that will be known as the, basically the database or the server end, right? So that server end is providing the database to another computer in the in the residing in the cyber cafe. And if I just asked someone like the, if taking an example, I went to an cyber cafe, and there was systems like, if I just want to print, I have to just push it to the print, and the printer will automatically get connected to the any computer in that cyber cafe. So that is a thing, like that is a connection where the connection is different. The client layer and the server layer is very much different or separated from each other in a different physical system, but it's working fine. And that's the example, that could be example. But and in a corporate world or in this world, we can take the example of Oracle database. So this is, I think, best example. You can also state in the interview, it will be better. Next, we'll be moving on to the three tier architecture. In this architecture, we have uh, we have just recognized another layer which is known as business logic layer or the application layer. So basically, what we have to do in this application layer is that first of all, we will be knowing about three-tier architecture. In this three-tier architecture, and the client, the server is separated from business logic layer. In this business logic layer, likewise, if you think about if you're taking about taking an example, think about your school website. When you just log in into the website, you see the things that are present to you in your student login, right? But when the admin or the teachers actually log in, they can see their salary details, their class strength, or the other results of other students, like total result of other students as well. But you can't see the results of other students, right? So this is something which is done by the business logic layer. So what's the most important thing in this, that we can separate the authority, we can change the authority from person to person. Like the admin will have the access to every properties of that server, but like the teacher should not have the every access to every corner of the thing. Like the teacher should not see the fund value or the domination in the funds, right? So in this way, we can see that as a student, we can't see the salary of the teacher that the teacher is like receiving from the school. So basically this it's actually enhance the security and it enhance the privacy, and as well as there are a lot of features, and that's how the today's world work. So we have started learning from the previous architecture. Like in the one tier architecture, we have seen that the most of the application that we use, most of the software that we use are in one tier architecture. As well as in this today's world, we are surrounded by internet, we are surrounded by cloud or web service. There are a lot of services in over the cloud. So these are basically work on three tier architecture. You can have an example, I think. Yeah, so sorry, I missed the example. So okay, so what we have to do in this entire architecture, how the things work is that a client in a machine one, suppose this is a machine one, a client from machine one requested the web server, that is the business logic layer. Once again, most important thing, a business logic or a business logic layer or a tier or application server is basically the places where the application programming interfaces state, that is the web services actually reside in. So what we have to do is that a client requests something from the server. So before going into the server, the web server will check something and process the data somewhere. Like if I just want to log in some places, if I just want to log in somewhere like in this, yeah. So if I just want to log in like this, there are locked out user, like there are locked out user. If you just use locked out user, you can just log in, right? So this is something which is done by is something which is done by C, like Epic Surface. So this user has been locked out. So who are checking that this user are locked out or not? Who are checking that this is a problem user not or not normal user should be logged in, should be locked in? Then it's a work of the business layer which is actually working on the behalf of us. So a client, suppose I'm a student of some school which have a website. I'm just logging in. The web server will verify my access if I am a student or the teacher, and then it will process the response page. If I just search something like, let us take my example, like my school website. Okay, if I just search it, not my school website. If I just searched it, then if I just want to log in, now they will be verifying. Like if you are an admin or a KVS Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan student or some teacher or some principal, and everything will be verified by the web service or in the business logic layer. Here the all the APIs actually states in or resides. See, business logic contain a lot of programs which automate or sort out, basically sorted, and trigger the relevant data to the request. So whatever we are searching, this is just a request, and whatever we are seeing after the search or receiving after the search is known as response. So the business logic layer has only one thing to do, that they automate or sort and trigger the relevant data to the request. This request are created over the internet. Okay. See, example are all internet applications runs over three tier architecture. Now, client server architecture languages used in different layer. As you can see, this presentation layer is nothing but a client layer. That is the layer which is seen by our users like us, and application layer is nothing but the business layer, business logic layer, where the original business logic works in, and data layers is basically the database layer where the original backend or the database stores in. So what are the languages which are used in presentation layer, application layer, and data layer? So this is HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS has been actually are in use to do the front end part, and these are the backend part. If I can show you that the application layer and the data layer are the part of backend, this is only part. The presentation layer is the front end part, and application layer and the data layer is known as backend part. So in this backend part we have seen that Java, .NET, C hash, Python, and C++ are there. And next, the database server or the data layer, where the MySQL, Oracle, and lot of DBMS's languages are actually working in. So now we'll be moving forward to the API. What is actually API? We'll be learning about API. Okay. So first of all, what is an API? So API is nothing but, like, if you just answered in the way like API is an application programming interface, no, that's not the reason. I also know that, but it's the API is an application programming interface. So let us move on to API. What is an API? So API means application programming interface, and as you can see in the name itself, it's self-explanatory in the sense that application programming interface must be working in where like the application are working. So basically, what are the functions of an API is it enables an communication and data exchange between two separate software systems. So what actually it means is that, like, when you are communicating, like if I am communicating with the KVS or Kendra Vidyalaya Sangatan's database, I'm talking with whom? I'm talking with an API. So this is my laptop. So this is my laptop. I am talking, like, this is my client interface basically. A client interface is talking with an API, and an API is talking with the data. So basically, an API can be called as a mediator between the database and the client, right? So what we are actually doing that, so it enables the communication and data exchange. Like these are all datas, right? These are all datas. If I just showed you that this is the website, these are all datas. These pictures and all these are all datas. So basically, these are all datas, right? So this data exchange is also done by the API basically. So what are the most important thing, but what we have learned here is that this is the API is the basically application programming interface is an mediator between the database and the client interface. So basically, what is if I'm moreover looking about the API, so a software system implementing an API. So if a software system implements an API, it contains certain functions, subroutines which can be executed by another software system. See here, if I just want to log in, if I have to click the login, there must be some API behind it, or there must be some programming behind it, which is actually taking me into the this page, avsangatan.nic.in user login. But I just requested my Google that what I requested my Google, I requested Kendriya Vidyalaya. I didn't requested Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangatan. Now Google sent me a relevant data. You must be searching for kvsangatan.nic.in. Though it's an API work, so an API provided me, like, you must be searching this. Right, there must be a program for this. Now when I clicked it, it just opened it. Now when I click the login button, it took me to another API. So basically, what a software system, if a business layer, if the Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangatan's business layer is working on API, right? So these APIs are what are those, what they are doing, they have certain functions. Like if somebody click on this login function, they should be moved to this URL, right? So this is the work of API, the data exchange. It enables communication, which can be executed by another software system. Is that if I just put my username or password here, it will take me into the login page, right? After login page. So that page is a moreover a bit closer to the database of API, but I'm seeing just a part of the database. I'm not seeing the whole database, but it's just a part of the database. I'm getting more closer to this database, right? So it's basically the communication. It enables the communication. See, another thing is that one API connecting with another API, that is known as API call. Like if I just see, this is an API thing. This is an API. After putting in, it will this thing will be this will be removed, and there will be something like this. There will be something like this. Here it will be like Indranil or whatever my name is. There should be like this. There are a lot of data, right? So that's the thing, that they called another API, that this guy has the authority or access to this page. Move this guy to another page, and this is known as, which is known as API call. API is chaining up of APIs. Like an API is calling another API. Fourth point is API always requires a request and response. The most important part is that if you just don't know how to talk and what to search about, if I don't know, if I just open the Google, sorry, what am I saying? Google, okay, google.com. If I just search in Google, and if I don't know that what's the what we have to search, then it will be a problem, and that would be, then we need a icebreaker to call with the API or talk with the API. So API requires a request. We should request about something like Sundar Pichai. This is my request, and this is my response. So API work on this thing. Why it is called API? So basically, application programming interface is called as simple as that. Like in the first place, I have told you, because it's situated in application layer and it made by programming and interfaces and methods. This is what is known as. This is why it is known as application programming interface, and it works as an interface between the presentation, or also it called me also called because of that. This is an interface between the application, sorry, presentation layer and the data layer. So it is known as application programming interface. Now moving on to the API testing, the topic we have started with. So API testing is entirely different from GUI testing, that we are having a tutorial series over that. Like we are working on the web elements, we are working on the factors, like we are working. If I just want to automate this thing, I think I have automated this part. If I just want to automate, we have to click on this web elements. Like these are web elements. These are all web elements. But if we want to know about the APIs behind it, we have to just inspect about this thing. Like we have to work on the APIs and all, right? So basically, if I want to learn about what are the APIs that are actually working on, so we have to learn about what are the APIs. This is one of this is there are one of APIs, and there are a lot of like payloads and all. Okay, so this is a different topic. I think we're discussing about this thing in a later part. Okay, yeah. So these are web elements. These are web elements. If I just inspect it, we can see that that is also made by the coding. In the first part, I have shown you that the presentation layer is created by HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. So these are something which is created by, these are actually something which is created by JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. So basic structure is done by the HTML. Next designing part will be done by the CSS, and the reactive part has done by the JS. Okay, so yeah. So we are working on something which is like user can see in a presentation layer. But while we are working on the API testing, we'll be working on the APIs. That is on the base of that, what are the important things that are working. If I just click on the videos, there are a lot of another API that will come up. There are a lot of APIs that will come up. We'll be testing each of the APIs to understand the request and response. Okay. In API testing, we use software send calls to API, get output, and note down the system response. So basically, while we are working on the, suppose we have searched Sundar Pichai, okay, and we get this response. So there must be some API behind it. Let's find out which API. So if I just find out our API, okay, so there must be some API. Okay, let's see here. That will be the best part. This is a front end. I have told you the first place that this is the, I think, best or interactive way of learning API. So whenever I think get, yeah, these are actually request type. We'll be learning about this. If I just click on this, we can see that there are requests and this is the response. This is a response code basically, and these are the response. Someone is like requested this part, okay, and the response has been loaded. So we'll be testing if the response is loading or not, and if response is loading, what are the responses should be, what are the expected result, and what are the actual result. So we'll be testing that. So basically, what are the requirements of API testing? API testing requires nothing but an application to interact with API. In order to test an API, one must require use testing tool to drive the API and write code to test the API. Okay, we'll be learning about that thing in different part. Difference between unit testing and API testing. This is the most important question I think the interviewer will ask you. That what are unit testing and what is API testing? So unit testing is something which is performed by developers, and API testing is something which is performed by testers. And unit testing functionalities, like separate functionalities tested if developer one is the like see here, in the developer one is doing code one, and the unit testing, he will do the unit testing for himself, code one, right? Dev 2 will do the same thing, dev 3 will do the same thing. So separate functionality is tested. But in API testing, overall end to end testing is done. End to end functional testing is done. Developer can access the code. As we can see, the developer in this thing, in this part, developer is actually accessing the code, while like they are having the white box testing technique, right? They are actually accessing the code, working or changing the code, manipulating the code. But while we are doing, the tester can't access the source code. We don't know the source code. We don't know this. We just seeing the API. We don't know the source code. What are those payload? What are the language that has been used for coding this thing, right? That so the testers are actually use black box testing technique. Now UI testing is also like involved in this part. UI testing is also involved. Like what would be done if this part, like if a developer just integrated or pushed the thing into GitHub, what will be the, like what will be the function of this, right? So UI testing also should be done by also is done by or followed by the unit testing. Okay, it is a standard procedure. It is a actually it varies upon companies to companies. Again, only API function are tested. So while we are working on the API, there are a lot of things we have to test. We don't know about the web element are present or not. We don't know. We don't check about the web elements, right? We'll be checking about the APIs only. That the fifth part is that only basic functionality means code one is have some functionality, code two has some different functionality. Unit testing will be done in this part, so separate functionality will check only the like the basic functionality. But while we are working on the end-to-end test, we will be testing the like all over all the functionalities should be tested, right? Limited in scope, the code one will, like unit testing will scoped to this part only or focused on that part only, while the API testing will be focused on the from the starting part to ending part, what are the things went wrong. Okay, usually ran before check-ins and ran after build is in create like is created, build is created basically. Sorry, it's a I think typo is error. Is created, it would be is created. Now, so check-in before check-in is means that while you are pushing, while suppose you are a SD, you are pushing some code into GitHub. So you will be checking the code before, like you will be checking the code coverage, you will do the request and response thing, whatever. So you will be doing the unit testing before pushing it to the GitHub, right? So that it didn't affect the other functionalities of that product or project, right? So that is how it actually focused on, or it actually have to done on before checking or before pushing in. While API testing is ran after the build. If I don't have the build like Google, we can't check the API if it is working or not, right? Now moving on to the things who tested what. Now unit tests are done by developers. Okay, and the component test is done by developers. So what is component test is basically, okay, so what is component test? Test is basically while it's like a integration test, just a pre-check uh, of integration test. What we like do here is that a lot of other stuffs like here in this part, code 1, code 2 integrated, so there will be a component test. Code 3, code 4 will be integrated, there will be a component test. After all the codes have been integrated, there will be an integration test. So these are also done by the developers or developers teams. Integration test also be done by the developers. API testing is done by QA team. Again, there might be some requirement of the developers while we are doing the testing, or changing something or doing a regression test, then we need some developers to change the code, or might be there's some testers are which are cross function, or cross talented, they can change the code by on their own, but it needs the access of or authorities of um, developers, auditing of developers. Now after that, functional test will be done, that is a GUI test that would be done by simply like single-handed by the QA team. But as we belong to agile methodologies or DevOps methodologies, where we belong to the business agility model of level 5, we'll be learning about that thing in a different video. So in this level 5 business agility, we are actually connected with each other, and a developer team and QA team don't work separately, they work very closely to each other. Okay. Post that, what is web services? So the most asked question after we have started this chapter is that API testing is done. What is web services? So web service is nothing but an API which is available on the internet. We call it as a web service. What actually we are doing here is that it enables a communication between the application over the web. Like, see, if an API, like I have told you in the notepad that this is an API. This is an API based feature. This is a software which had some API in the backend. Likewise, there is some web service, like there are some APIs over the cloud, and those APIs are known as web services. So it's basically the function of APIs. What the actually API do, it enables a communication between application over the web. So there are a lot of application over the web like Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, WhatsApp, Instagram. There are a lot of other which have a lot of APIs or web services. Basically, we should try focusing on the web services. Provides a standard protocol format for communication. So yes, there's something which comes in this part is that during an API, during here we don't need a medium to talk with. We are just clicking it. But while we are talking about the web services, we should need a medium, right? That medium is known as HTTP, that is the hypertext transfer protocol. Who actually these web services are actually wrapped in the HTTP. We'll be learning in this forward part. Now, why we use it? This is a First of all, the advantage should be noted down. Like this is a platform independent communication using web services. Two different application can talk to each other and exchange data information through web or internet. You also know that what are the importance of web services. We are using it, and you also know that what is actually the advantages of web services. We can talk with each other millions of kilometer apart by the means of an API, by the means of the HTTP, by the means of the network. And they can also send me something which is from the database of Google, is from the database of Mug, and these are actually available all over the internet. And as we are moving forward in this world of automation, or in this internet, we are seeing that there are a lot of stuff which are like data is a new we all like I have already told, or I have already saying my fellow mates or colleagues that data is a new field. So data is all over the internet, and who are driving this data? These APIs are driving this data. Now we'll be moving forward. The types of web services, there are basically two types of web services. The first one is SOAP web services, and the second one is REST web services. Okay, so we'll be knowing about these web services in this tutorial also. Yeah. So types of web services. So basically, there are two types of web services. That is the SOAP web services and the REST web services, where basically we have seen that in this web services an API which is present over the cloud. So we know how to talk with an API. We know what an API requires, a request and a response. But this request and response should be transferred by some medium. So what are the medium? This medium is HTTP or internet, right? This medium is, and what are the format we should talk about? We'll be talking about the actual figure. Okay. Now API don't know the language of us. We can't just say that Google API just bring me this thing. Okay, so we need to like send something, right? We need to send something. We need to give something and information in their language. So what are the languages? So basically, don't get confused about the medium and format here. So a client is here in this picture. We can see that the request and response is done, or request and response is in making. In this part, we have known that the client is making a request in a medium. What are the medium? This is an internet cable, or this is an internet, you can see, you can call. And the what are the format? The XML and JSON is the format. Okay, and based on this, we have categorized two types of web services. One is SOAP web services, and another one is REST web services. Okay, so we have seen that what are actually we are doing with the web services, right? So a client is making a request over the internet in the format of XML or JSON to the server to give something to him. So the server is providing response in the format of XML, and it could be in the format of XML and JSON. But it is a work of front end developer to develop it in an interactive manner. See, the response has come in this manner. Okay. So this manner, this is the request. I think this is the request payload. Okay, and the this is the response. Okay, this is the response, or you can say that this is the response. Okay, this is a response, but it is a work of front end developer to make it this way. If I just search Sundar Pichai, we should get this type of drop downs, this type of see more thing, or web element interactable social profiles and all. These are all links, these are hyperlinks, and these are all work are done by the front end developers. Those are who are actually responsible for developing the user experience. Okay, so we'll be not focusing on that thing. We'll be focusing on what are the we will be focusing on the request and response only. In this case, medium through which a client made its request is internet, and in XML or JSON format. Okay, we also don't like search in JSON format, so we use the um, help of an API to drive it. Like if I just write Sundar Pichai, it will um, it will go to some, like the API will drive it in their own way, in their own language. I didn't write it, right? I didn't write it, but an API is driving it that way. Okay, so what are those API? What are those web services? Not We are not calling it as an API. We should call it as a web services, because this is a generation of internet. Okay, so first type of web services is SOAP. That is, SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol, where a SOAP actually are meant or provide the service of post services. So what are post services? Like if I want to create, if I just search Facebook, I don't know if I had logged in or not. It's just Facebook login. Okay, here. Okay, so here see that a post service is something like this. If I want to join Facebook server, I have to create an account, right? A post service, we have to get the help of a post service. Post means something to update on the server. Okay, and by the means, so while I'm creating an account or using the post service, we should send something like, if I just click on create account, we should send something like this, right? Will be something like this is some we will search some sending something like this. And these all sending, while using the post services, these all sendings, if I write it down, if I use post services, as I have shown you, we are using the post services, right? But we are sending something. There should be mobile number, there should be new password, date of birth, gender, and all, right? So these are known as payload. And while we are requesting the server to update these things, we are requesting, it would be called as request payload. Okay, and the response we receive after post creation of the Facebook account is known as, it should be known as response payload. Okay, so these are the best, this is a basic of SOAP. Like SOAP are meant to do only that thing. In the latest version we are using the REST services. Okay, so what the SOAP has done, like SOAP is a web services which is basically worked on HTTP internet, and the format which it understand is that XML, and only post service is available, only create account is available, no get. Like if I have a like, what are the get and put and delete, is that if I want to create a Facebook account and then want to delete it, I don't need it now, then I have to help create, like I have to need the help of the delete services. But the SOAP service don't provide delete service. Again, SOAP web service basically. Again, if I want to search someone, like my friend is working on some Google or someone else in the company, I want to search it, like how his life is going, though it's a web service, the get service, these type of SOAP type of web services don't provide this type of request. Basically these are request type, right? These are request type, we are posting something, request type. We are getting something, we are retrieving some data, this is a request type. We are requesting the server to do the give me the response and all. So that's the major drawback of SOAP. And while we're working on the SOAP, we'll be got to know that there are a lot of complexities, because we work on the format XML. There are a lot of complexity that we have to work on, right? That we have to, if I just show you that you have to create an account, Facebook account, in this manner, you have to basically send a number in here. Okay, in this input type, you have to send some value over here, writing them. So it will be very much issue, like this should not be there. This is the only thing that you can see. So will you be available, or will you be attracted to the using this website? No, will be not using. So that's how it's actually work. That's why we have moved on to the second latest web service, that is REST. A REST is basically let me see what's the time actually going. Okay, so I actually tried to keep it very short, but there are a lot of things that we have to learn. So we'll be doing it in a second part. Okay. So what are REST? Basically, REST is the latest web service that we can use, that we are using basically. In this that is REST is stand for representational state transfer. This is basically a big brother of SOAP, where the medium is same, but the service got changed and the format got changed. It can understand JSON, it can understand text. This is a format of, this is an example of JSON. This is a JSON format. Yeah, and this could understand text, and there are a lot of things. And there are a lot of, like, you can learn it from on your own, that difference between the API and web services. Web service is an API wrapped in HTTP, that is, and web service, an API which is present in over the cloud is known as web service. That is the API which is available on internet. Okay, yeah, all web services are API, but APIs are not web services. Yeah, web services are APIs, we know that. But API that is present in my laptop or my computer interface is not a web service, right? My Word, my Excel sheet, my PowerPoint is not a web service. But a web service, all the web services are API. Web service might not perform all the operation that an API would perform. Um, Probably it's an opinionated thing. Web service might not perform all the operation. It's based upon the connectivity. It's based upon a lot of things, like you have the access or not, because we know that there are a lot of business layer or business logic present over the internet also. So that's how it is. It is actually quite opinionated. Okay. Um, a web service needs a network, while on API doesn't need a network for its operation. Very important point, yeah. And web service should need a network or an internet connectivity, because we know that the request and response that we are making should be, or like it happens over the internet. So how can we just make a request? While we are requesting over this thing, we just asking, we're just clicking thing. We don't need the like internet. But in the case of web services, we do need the web service, internet over things. Okay, moving on to the next part. Okay, so there are components of web service and WSDL and UDI. We'll be learning this thing, and you can also check out the document from the from the PDF that I will be provided in the description section. But it will be better if you just learn it from my, like, from my video. It will be better. It will be more clear understanding and all. In the future, in the second tutorial, we'll be learning about the components of web services, and we'll be learning about the working of Google, how the Google is running so much of things, and there are there are APIs and web service testing challenges, there are testing processes and all, and there are a lot of REST services. What are those things? We'll be learning on this thing. There are not more things to learn about because this is a basic. Yeah, we'll be learning about things which is very challenging, but it'll be fun, right? So once I have heard that coding is neither hard, neither easy, it's actually fun. You can see it on yourself, because while you were learning, you actually are learning things on paper, and then we are actually implementing it on machine. So that's what the difference is, and keep on learning. Make sure you check out the next video so that you will be learning more about the basics of API testing. I hope that I have made you understand about the API testing, and will be made you make you more knowledgeable about the API testing in the future videos. Till then, stay connected and keep on learning.